I've been decorating this mailbox with crows on it for the last 16 years. It's my way of saying I love everyone who passes by, and it's my way of bringing joy to people who maybe are on a very long commute into work. Did you know that anything can be art? Anything you create with your hands. You can create, sculpture, you can do paintings, even food can be creative. So anyway, just do anything and create. I'm on my way into the studio now to make some Valentines. Hi, we're back from the mailbox. We got to put the retired crow back up on his perch, okay? He lives over here. He's been on the mailbox for several months, so we need to give him a little bit of a break, right? I'm going to put him up here. Okay. As I promised you, I'm going to show you how I make my collage to Valentines. I don't know if you know this, but Valentine's Day started in the 18th century. That was the first time Valentines were actually sent. People would make love notes and they would decorate them. Sometimes they would write poetry on them or little puzzles. They would stick them under the door, or they would put ribbons on them and tie them to the door knockers. So that's sort of, there's more history that goes back even further, but those are the first ones that were sent. People couldn't just go to the store and buy a pack of Valentines. So, and as I was thinking about Valentines, I was remembering when I was in the third grade, maybe third or fourth grade, how exciting it was for me when I went in on Valentine's Day and I saw all the boxes that the teacher had put out on her desk. Each one had a different child's name on it. And we would come in and we would deposit the Valentines that we'd made or that we'd purchased into everybody's little box. And I always gave my favorite Valentine to somebody I liked really, really well. And so this particular year, it was Chucky. We'll call him Smith just to protect his identity. And I couldn't wait to put the Valentine. I remember it had a little bee with some honey on it and some hearts into his, box. And we never saw anybody open Valentines. We would take them home at the end of the day and open them. And when I opened up my Valentine from Chucky, it was a big monster truck on the Valentine. I don't remember what it said, but my first thought was, what? A truck? He picked a truck for me? And then when I thought about it, I smiled and I said, Chucky loves me because he loves trucks. So, all right, so we're going to switch to the other camera and see if we can, look at the paper, and I'll show you how I do the collage. Okay, so here's my paper. You see how I have my 8 pieces of watercolor paper. Some of it's already painted on, taped with blue tape. I like the blue tape because it's less expensive than the white tape that's artist tape. And it will keep the paint pretty much from going under all these edges. You need to seal them with your finger or your fingernail around each one if you don't want the paint to go under them. So to warm up, usually what I do is I pick up maybe some crayons, a pencil, anything you want to doodle with, and I let the marks just come from my heart, and I just start putting a little bit on maybe each one of these. Maybe there's a heart on this one. These are water soluble, these crayons, so when I put something with water over them, they'll probably bleed a little bit or disappear. But I don't care. It's just fun to do this. Now, you can do any marks that you want to. You don't have to do them like Miss Sherry. But I want a little something on each one of them. I also have a permanent red marker, and I'm going to make a couple hearts with those. You know, we don't have to make perfect hearts. You can just make them kind of wonky, kind of lopsided if you want, because they're your hearts. And they're directly from your heart. These type of paintings that I do, I don't plan ahead because it's just fun to see what comes out with the marks. And maybe in the end you won't see those marks because we're going to be painting over those too. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of water on this one that's blank here. Just get it a little wet. It's a watercolor paper and it's kind of thick, you know, and then I'll go into some of my, the color is, yeah, here it is. I have to show it to the camera, don't I? Quinacridone Magenta, one of my favorite colors. If you put enough water with it, it's a beautiful pink. Do you see that? Whoa. Okay, and that will dry to be waterproof. Then maybe I want to put a few into some of the other places. So I use the same color. Just remember with these paints, you want to make sure you put enough water in them. Otherwise, they're too solid and you don't see the beautiful color. So just like watercolor, you want to add water. Up here where I put the Caran d'Ache watercolors, you see how they're water soluble? So just with water, those will move. If you used regular crayons, that's okay too. Use what you have around. We're just playing. That's what we're doing. In fact, most of the painting I do is just playing. I put out this beautiful turquoise color. There it is. Can you see it, camera? All right, turquoise. Also, phthalo, spelled P-H-T-H-A-L-O. My brush into the phthalo and let it just go into that previous color, see what happens. And this is the fan brush. The fan brush can make all kinds of different feathering effects, but it also can make really nice circles if you want to. So one time at the craft store, I found these rollers. I have a bunch of them. I love them. And I like to make designs by going over everything with the roller. I get it a little bit wet, and then I dry it off a little bit too, because I don't want it too wet. And this one has hearts, so let's see if we can make that work. Sometimes it just comes out blobs, but I'm going to go into the Pyrrole Red. Okay, so Pyrrole Red is sort of like an orange red. And I'm rolling it in there. And I have a piece of paper over here that you can't see off camera. And I'm rolling it one time until I get some of it off there. And then maybe I'll roll it over here. And maybe what happens if it's on dark? I don't know. All right. I'm going to try the other one. It has the chevron design. And as I'm playing in my mind, I'm always saying, what if, what if? You know, everything we create is art. Everything we create, right? With our hands is art. And I believe we are all artists. We just need to create and put our ideas on the papers. Sometimes our feelings. And just play and just keep going. That's what happens when you use this other one, which is kind of neat, isn't it? Now I'm just going to do some water and see what happens when I do some water here. Do you see how the phthalo and the quinacridone magenta make this beautiful purple? Let me do a little more over here in the corner, see if you can see on top. Remember, we're going to put some collage papers on top of this too, so don't get too attached to your marks because there will be a time that things are going to get covered up. Do you see how I use the brush to make the heart? I don't color it in. I don't draw it first and color in. I push and I make a half circle and then I lift up on it until I get that nice point down there. There you go. Oh, there I went right over the heart. Bicarandash heart. You can sort of see it. It's a little bit pale there. What if I introduce another color on here? Can you have Valentines that are yellow? I think you can. So I'm just going to directly put it right onto my paper in a couple places. This is the opposite end of my brush. It has this nice pointed thing that I like to scrape in with. Don't be afraid to make marks. Mark making makes everything very interesting. What else can I do? I'm saying to myself, what else? You can let it dry a little bit and then you can put another layer on top and scratch in. So maybe I just want to let it dry for a little bit. I'm trying to think of another color. Okay, so we've got a light phthalo. All right, so can you see that? Okay, that's the heavy-bodied light phthalo. Of course, I could probably do that by adding some pearl too to the turquoise in my tray. Maybe I'll try that first. A little bit of pearl, white, a little bit of turquoise. And now I've got, let's see, which one do I want to do that on? Maybe a little bit here. Oh, it's a little bit too dark, but I'll go back. It's going to make sort of a pearl idea onto this painting. And maybe it's on this one here. You can mix all of these colors. You don't have to have every one of these colors when you go to the store to get paint. I buy them because in my classes it saves a lot of white paint. We don't have to mix a lot of colors. I want to show you how you get the pattern on some of these. The camera cut out for a minute, so I want to make sure that you know how I got these lacy marks on my Valentines here. I'm going to do this one with the dark blue, so it'll show up over here on this one. So the doilies you can get at the dollar store. And then you're going to use the heavy-bodied acrylics. I'm putting my stencil brush, well, you see it's a flat end brush, and use it very dry. I'm going to put it into the cobalt blue, and I stamp. Let's see if I can show you this. I stamp the paint until it's really filled into here. Not too wet, it just fills up the stencil brush very full. See? And now, the magic happens when you pounce on top of the doily. Don't worry if it comes outside the doily a little bit, that'll be interesting too. And when you lift it up, there's your doily print. I'm going to do a little more on this one. Now while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to make some marks that show me where the tape ends, because with a pencil that I can erase later. Because when we do our collage, we don't want to go past these lines. So if you can't see where the line is when the paint went over it, just add a little bit of pencil there so you can see it. This one you can't see very well, so I add the pencil. And that's just a reminder to not put any collage paper over those pieces of tape, because when you pull up the tape, it's going to pull up your collage. I'm going to use a white chalk on the darker edges, just so it reminds me how far I can go here. So you don't want to start any collage until everything is dry. So we know that's wet, so we will stay away from the blue for a little bit. But I'll start here to show you how to collage. So we are using, for the thinner pieces, like this one's made out of tissue, we're using matte medium. It's really a glue, but it's archival so that everything won't turn yellow in the future, okay? And matte means it's dull, M-A-T-T-E. It's okay to use gloss if you want to, but in the end you probably want to put it on everything so everything ends up glossy. When I have heavier things to adhere, for instance, this piece is made out of heavy watercolor paper. I need something heavier to make it stick. So then I'm going to use the extra heavy gel that's matte, okay? And you see that's a real thick paste. When you use matte medium, you don't want to use your good brushes to apply it, because it'll ruin the good brushes very quickly. So I'm going to use what I call a chip brush. Chip brushes, maybe a couple dollars at the Home Depot or your hardware store. And I'm going to put it in the matte medium. And in this case, I'm going to apply it under where I want to put my piece of collage. So I'm thinking, where do I want this piece of collage? Looks good in a lot of places, right? Just move it around until I see something that I like. I think I like it right there. So I'm going to put a layer underneath it. And I'm actually, because these are little pieces, these 5x7s, if they're dry, you can just smooth on the whole thing. It dries clear. And I noticed it turned a little blue. Do you see that? Because underneath here is the Caran d'Ache water-soluble crayons that we used in the beginning. And so they're going to smear a little bit, but once that dries, then, you know, they won't run anymore. Okay, so I'm just going to put this piece down. And then I'm going to put another coat on top. I don't like anything to stick up, so I sort of push it down hard. And if I really want to go over even more, I have this roller or brayer. This brayer is only used for matte medium. I don't know if you can see how it just has gotten all chunky. You see that? It's not smooth anymore. But it's very good for rolling over these things, making sure that they're flat. Okay, then we'll let that one dry. So be very careful when you put it down, not to put it on top of the tape. Now we're going to use some the heavy gel, because I have this heavy piece of paper. Remember we talked about adding some heavy gel on that. I do that in a different way. I take the gel, you see, heavy gel, and I put it on my finger like this. This is the only piece I do like this. It's because it's heavy. So I'm going to work a little longer on this, add a few more things. And then I'll show you how to come back and add some details with the Pebeo markers. I'm going to let this dry before I do that. So this is the part where I add the metallic markers. I have to make sure that everything is perfectly dry. Run your hand over it, make sure it's perfectly dry. And then if you have a set of these metallic Pebeo markers, they're wonderful to put those on top if you want. And they're oil-based, so that really should go on top. Shake it really well. And then you want to get it started by just like dab, dab, dab somewhere. And once the paint comes down to the end, then you can add little details in here. Maybe we want to just put a little shine around some of these hearts. Maybe you want to add a few more hearts. You know, just if you like things that are shiny. And sometimes I do, so I'm adding them here now. Gotta let that dry a minute, and I'll come right back. Well, actually, I'm going to pull the tape off now because I can put markers on there later too if I want to, okay? I just don't want to smear what I just did. All right, so here's the big reveal. Some places like here, if you don't like the way it looks, you can later come back with your Pebeo markers and maybe put some gold in there. Just remember, every time something doesn't look right to you, it's an opportunity to be more creative. That's how it happens. So here they are, a few of my Valentines. I still might go back and add some more of the shiny paint from Pebeo. I really like that. So after you write your love note on the back, just slide it into your envelope. And mail it to someone you love. Roses are red, violets are blue, honey is sweet, and so are you.